Being great at sales is essential to your business and your career, but you and I both know that the stress of selling and dealing with constant rejection can be an emotional drain. My entire brand, No BS Selling, is based on the belief that professional sales is a skill and not a personality, and that to be better at sales takes constant refinement and a dedication to your craft. This show is for salespeople and entrepreneurs who are committed to improving their sales skills and getting better results, and are sick and tired of the BS game that often happens between buyers and sellers. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Walker McKay. I'll help you and your sales team make selling easier, feel less cheesy, and be more lucrative. It's time to change the rules and level the playing field between you and the people you sell to. You're already good, let's be better. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast. And today I'm super excited to have my old friend, my good friend, John Condry, who is an executive coach and does management training. He's based in Utah. His company is called Connection Basics. John works with CEOs of typically technology companies and helps them grow their business. And he gets real involved in their business and their life and helps them kind of make the right decisions. John is, he's going to talk to us today about how do you maximize sales? How do you maximize your performance in 2020? And that's the reason I invited him on the show, because he's really great at the how-to. And so I want John to share with us today about how do we grow better? What are the specific steps we can do to maximize our efforts in 2020? So welcome to the show, John. I'm so glad you're back.
Yes, great to be back, Walker.
So tell me something. You've been doing this executive coaching thing for a long time. You seem to have kind of focused, I know it's the beginning of the year and every year is a new start, but you seem particularly animated, I will say, this year about making sure that people understand that they can do better. And that's part of your message is, it's a little bit of inspiration is, look, just because your last couple of years may have been good or bad, there's some things you can change to make 20 better. Is that kind of a message that you're putting out there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because this year in 2020, the expectations don't get lower. Expectations everywhere get higher.
Always.
And so you got to be able to combat that with so exactly what do I do?
Right.
To do that? I mean, especially in sales. In sales, a lot companies will say, "Hey, we need 20% more from you," and the sales rep will usually say, and of course, I'm just being generic right now, but the sales rep will say, "Well, I don't understand. You got my best last year. It wasn't like that I took half the year off or I was loafing, and so if you're not going to raise prices, I'm trying to understand where I'm supposed to get some of this from."
Yeah, I'm not superhuman. How the hell do I go do that?
Yes. So what you've got to be able to have a plan. You've got to be able to have a plan. And for a lot of people that are in sales, they're not really planners, and they don't really understand what that means when I say they need to have a plan. They don't need to have a plan, which is like, this is what I'm going to do every single day. What they have a plan is how they're going to maximize what they do well, the parts that they have, the parts of that process, and then be able to add some things to their game.
So
to be able
give me
to
an example of that. What do you mean?
Okay. All right. So, so I'll give you an example from our real life. So here we are talking just a couple of days removed from the Kobe Bryant incident.
Yeah. Oh God, that was a tragedy.
Yes, definitely a tragedy. Kobe Bryant was my third daughter, Crystal's Make-A-Wish. So she had a Hodgkin's lymphoma, and when she was 13, and so we went through that whole. She went through that whole process. Then we got the Make-A-Wish, and Make-A-Wish is where they get to pick a rock star, a movie star, a sports figure, and her favorite was always Kobe Bryant. So we went. We went to L.A., went to Disneyland, and then that night we sat behind Jack Nicholson and watched the Lakers game.
Wow!
And then after the Lakers game, we were ushered into the room, and the support person came in, the executive, and she was like, "Listen, I need to kind of brief you all before Kobe gets here. He's only going to spend a half hour He's only got 30 minutes. And she saw all these items that we had brought for him to sign.
Yeah, of course.
He said he's only going to sign 5 of those. So and we were all like, no problem. It's great. We understand. Yeah. We're just excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Right. Yes.
Yeah, happy to be here. So anyway, so Kobe came in, and 3 hours later, he's still there. She is motioning for him to leave and go, and he won't, because my daughters have all kinds of questions for him, and they're talking to him, and he is just so engaged, so interested, not just like, kind of mailing it in, so to speak.
Right, sure.
Really doing it. And he's signing everything. In fact, he was signing the clothes that we were wearing. He was signing everything,
What an amazing guy.
He was an amazing guy, and it was an amazing experience, and it was really made a huge difference for my daughter, and who's an artist too, and she drew a picture of him and gave it to him, and he signed that, and it was really great.
Let me ask you a quick question before you move on to the business point here. Was your daughter must have been devastated when he died?
Yes, she was. And she was okay. At first, it really hit her very hard. And all of us, of course, were very much, trying to talk to her. And she was like, hey, let's not get over dramatic about this. His family lost him. That's right. That's probably the most important thing. Plus, there was, other people that lost their lives. Let's not get too far out of the realm. But she was very, very much sad and upset. Kobe's always meant a lot to her, for sure.
All right, so I interrupted your story then.
That's okay.
So y'all are meeting with Kobe. Bring that back.
So to your point, where you said, hey, so what specifically can people do? Kobe kind of laid it out for my girls, because they were like, well, because they all play basketball, and he was like, they were like, well, how do we get better, and how do we improve, and how do we, get better than we were last year? And he said, well, here's what I would tell you. He said, I can only tell you what I do. He said, I don't have any off days. So what exactly does that mean? He says, well, I do take some days off, but he says, I practice as hard as I play in a game. And he says, I play as hard in the fourth quarter if we're up by 30 as if the game was on the line. He said, I don't know any other way to do that. I don't know any other way to do it. And so the only way for me to get better, he says, is I work on the things that I am good at. I'm practicing all the time.
Yeah.
And then every year I introduce something new to my game. Every year, something that I'm not normally known for. And you can see that, by the way, you can see that in the NBA if you follow the NBA at all.
Yeah.
These days, and the NBA has changed so drastically, and believe it or not, it actually has a relationship to sales. But you can see people having to be able to keep up, to stay relevant. They are developing, you got 7'2" people developing 3-point shots.
Oh my God.
It's just, it's insane in some respects. So, but that was Kobe's, his advice to the girls. And if we come back to your business, it's really the same way. There's 4 parts. If you're, in the business development, and think of it as your game plan, right?
Yeah.
You're gifted at probably 2 of these 4. There's business acquisition, there's business relationships, there's business maintenance, and there's business advising, right? So if you're in sales, you're probably good at a couple of those.
Yep.
You may be really good at hunting, which is the acquisition part of it. You may be really good at building relationships with people. You may be really good at service and taking care of them, okay? Or you may be really good at giving them, consulting and being an expert, and, being able to be somebody they can't get rid of because they're like, man, you are a wealth of content and information that help us in our business. So,
yep. So what you're saying is that there are these 4 parts of kind of I'm going to call it a prototypical, or it's not even prototypical. It's an outstanding salesperson would be probably highly skilled in 2 of these areas and probably have 2 that are weaknesses.
Sure. Or at least just underdeveloped. How about we just call it underdeveloped?
Yep. Okay. I got it. Yes.
Yeah. So because we don't use them, it's like when you go to the gym and you see somebody with this huge upper body and these little tiny bird
And
legs.
no legs. Yes,
yeah, you're
exactly.
like, man, and not that I'm in the habit of, looking at people in the gym, but
Not checking out people's legs, right? Sure.
There's something wrong with that. So, but nonetheless, you kind of see that, but they're like, I don't like working on that. I like building my upper body because it looks good. I am good at it. And this is what I do. So I would never tell them, don't do that. But if you want to raise your game, if you've maximized as big as you can get, then let's start working on the cardio. Let's start working on the legs. Let's start working on the stamina. Let's do that. It's kind of funny when you see all these movie stars that have to prepare for roles. It's really interesting to read about what they all do and how
crazy?
They change they're good at something, but they're like, I got to kind of change. I got to adapt, to do things that I normally didn't do. And then all of a sudden, then after they develop it, they're like, it's like I've been doing it my whole life.
Did you see Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yes, I did.
The guy who played Freddie Mercury, I don't know if you heard this story, but he walked around London for a year with those fake teeth in, carrying the microphone in his hand so he could develop what that character must have seen and felt like. But he did that super uncomfortable thing so that it would become natural, right? So that would become who he was. And it's just it's fascinating.
Great story.
I think that's what you're talking about. So
great story.
So in our thing, part of this podcast is to tell people how. So you're talking about let's develop some of the things that we're not using all the time. Let's work on our legs or our cardio if we've been working on our upper body. How do you do that? Give me what are some advice, some practical advice?
So here's the advice that I will give to people when we're talking about improving performance in any area. Okay, we're talking about sales today, but it could be in service, production. It could be in anything. Yep. And that is when and how. Okay. When and how is the focus. So, for example, if you were like, I want to raise my game when it comes to building relationships.
Yep.
I want to raise that game, the relationship game. Then I would say Monday. I would say Monday is your win. And now here are some ways, some how-tos to do that. Or I would have them come up with some how-tos. So how do you do that? But you got to block out the time. Blocking out the time is the biggest problem that I see for all of us improving our performance is that we're all over the place.
Absolutely.
We literally, the distractions are so huge. Jeez. And there's so much going on and it's just so tempting, that we're like, and we're just so used to succeeding and getting a dopamine rush immediately that we just don't stay with it. We just literally don't stay with it.
Plus, it's hard. It's hard.
Because it is hard.
It's friggin' work. It's hard as shit. And most people don't want to. I myself, I have to, it takes discipline to be able to sit still and focus on one thing and then move on to the next.
Yep. And so what you do is you got to take control of that because everyone's a philanthropist with your time and money.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody's going to say, hey, nobody's going to call you and say, weren't you supposed to cold call me today?
Right.
Nobody's calling in for that. All right.
I was ready to buy and you son of a bitch, you didn't call.
That's it. So
never happens.
So in that vein, so the idea is making sure that time to focus. So when it comes to things like relationships, so it comes to relationship building, I always choose Monday because I always encourage everybody in my network to use Monday as a very motivational day, a very active day, a very new relationship day, a very positive day. In my world, I have a rule, and it is no bad news on Monday. I won't hear it. I won't accept it. I won't accept it. I will turn it into a positive if you give it to me. If you tell me all the reasons that things are done, and I'm going to turn it into a positive, or I'm going to keep it neutral. So in other words, I'm not going to go to the negative side. It's like when my kids used to call me about my former wife, right? Yep. So they're like, "Oh, listen." They'd say, let's look at what mom says, or what mom's doing, or this, that, and the other thing. And, all that kind of drama that goes on and stuff like that. And my response on Monday is always the same. Interesting. That's what I always, if I can't say something, if I can't put a positive spin on it, if I can't be like, put a positive spin on it, then I just go neutral. Interesting. Now
I thought you were going to say, I can't talk to you about this. Call me tomorrow. We can take
So that's it. But I just try to stay positive on Mondays. I try to encourage all managers to be motivational on Mondays.
Okay.
And the worst way to do that is to have a meeting.
Oh God, yes.
So cancel your meetings, reschedule them. Reschedule your meetings when you need to have it. If you do have to have a meeting, turn it into an action, an activity, so that they're going. So Monday's a day that you are building new relationships, and you're checking in with your strategic partners and with your referrals and with your existing clients, and you're doing your behavior plan. Yeah. Like I have one group, they have a behavior plan. They try to do 10 a week. They're like, we're trying to initiate 10 new client calls a day. That was their goal, not a week,
okay.
A day. So 50 a week. So then when I met them, I was like, we're going to do all 50 on Monday. Huh. They were like, what? What do you mean? I said, I don't want you to schedule any meetings on Monday. So instead of having meetings on Monday, either in the office or with your clients, we're gonna get all the 50, and we're gonna have some fun with it. We're gonna have a little contest. We're gonna have a little promotion. We're gonna have a dinner afterwards on Monday, and everyone's gonna share success stories and what they did and how they did it. And we're gonna have fun, and it's gonna be interesting. And
you're gonna have fun. You're gonna have fun. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about it is that many of the people still do their 10 anyway. So they're like, so now instead of doing 50 a week, they're doing like 90 a week.
Wow.
So it's interesting how stuff kind of evolves. So you can't motivate people these days. They have to motivate themselves. Your job as a manager is to get off to a good start. Starts out right, it ends right.
Okay.
So for example, the relationship stuff, I try to encourage people to do on Monday. And listen, they don't have to do it all day on Monday, but they have to make sure that they're touching that base. They're working those muscles a little bit. Yeah. So, right.
We talk to our clients a lot about time blocking, and I've found, at least with myself, if I have a list, right, in an hour, I can call and have between 22 and 26 dials with conversations. Yes. So I may talk to 3 or 4, and I'll get voicemail the other bunch of times. But so if you block 2 hours, I typically don't do 2 hours in a row because I'm too ADD, but I can you can make 50 calls in 2 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing. So all the training that you do, okay, so all these people that are listening to the podcast, most of them are clients of yours or some connection to you, right?
Or want to be, I hope.
Yeah, or want to be, or should be, right? Or should be, right?
Right.
But see, there's training concepts and ideas, but I would say that probably there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. So what I get to do on Monday is I get to not only do my behavior to building relationships, but I also get to tap into some of the training ideas and really focus in on prospecting, business development, being good on the phone, networking, referral gathering. I get to be able to kind of to access the training. So all of a sudden, instead of training being like this huge thing, I get to compartmentalize and say, you know what, I'm going to tap into this, how to be better. on social media, how to do better with making calls, how to do better at overcoming, resistance and stuff.
So you take the Monday where you might go and learn about what are some steps I could take to improve my social media game, or who do I need to read, or what do I need to follow? So it's almost like in Strategic Coach, they call it a buffer day.
I love that. So I would say that you would kind of get up earlier than you normally do.
Yep.
Which is what most successful people do, and tap into some of that good training.
Got it.
And then get out there and get started.
Okay.
So you might re-listen to one of your podcasts or some of your training the way that you do it. But I don't have to listen to all of it. Maybe I'm focused in on how to make appointments. And so now all of a sudden I listen to a few of the ideas and the concepts. Maybe I even have a little cheat sheet with me. But, all those things Monday is a great day to really develop the building relationship, especially if you're an introvert. So I have a lot of people, especially we always think that all salespeople are extroverts, but
no, hell no.
Yeah. So, and a lot of them are not at all. And so this relationship building stuff is something they're like, I'm all business, John. I don't need to chit chat. I don't need friends. It's not show friends, it's show business.
Right.
I got to do business, man. I got things to be able to accomplish, or, I've got people that I have to take care of. So they're like, oh, I don't have time to build new people because I'm too busy fielding customer service calls or taking care of this.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help them to break out.
So, so what do you do on Tuesday then? If that's your Monday, it's working
Tuesday
on
through Thursday.
What do you do on Tuesday?
Tuesday through Thursday.
Yeah.
And again, just on a normal week, because sometimes people have some odd work scenarios, and they'll be sending me notes all the time and say, "Hey, John, my Monday is Thursday." I go, "Listen, you're blowing my mind, man. You do what you got to do, okay?
Whatever, right? Yeah.
You get the concept, okay? Don't write me." So, but in normal world, Tuesday through Thursday is where I am doing my routine. So when you think about being the support, service, advising personality style, right? This is your world. I mean, you are taking people that you've set appointments up and you've met, and you're taking them through your process. There's got to be a process. There's got to be steps. There's got to be a system. You can't just, unless you're in an immediate transaction scenario, if you contact someone, they're most likely they're not ready to buy something. If they are, that turns Monday into a little different thing, a little different scenario sometimes for the transaction people, immediate transaction people. But for most everybody, they got some steps.
One of the things, let me interrupt you for a second, because one of the things that you say that I love, and I think it's awesome, is you say, I'm looking for, three things. Every single call, right? Every prospect is either a now, a never, or a near future.
And that's what Tuesday through Thursday is, to be able to identify the nows, the nevers, and the near futures, and put them all in their proper place.
Right.
I don't want to be wasting a lot of time Tuesday through Thursday, because that's valuable time. That's valuable real estate for me to be able to, because I'm moving you towards becoming a client.
Yeah.
Right.
Or so moving you the hell out of the way.
Yes. I need to identify early who my nevers are, so that I don't spend a lot of time and effort and money and my energy. You only have a certain amount of energy.
So, all right, so Tuesday to Thursday, you're actually running the sales calls. You're meeting with your prospects. You're meeting with your clients. You're trying to grow your business. Yes. What do you do after that? What do you do on Friday?
Okay. Friday's best day of the week. So Friday, I'm closing business. Closing business on Friday morning. And I am calling in all of my chips so that people are either nows or nevers or near futures. Now, if I don't already know, if I haven't figured that out, Friday morning, I'm figuring it out.
Okay.
Friday morning is about decisions. Friday morning is about results. Friday morning is about finishing. Friday morning is about, if you're really good at business acquisition, that part of the equation, if that's part of your gift, some will, some won't, so what next?
Just did a video about that on Monday. Yes, sir.
There you
100%.
go. Beautiful, beautiful. And the people that are really talented at business acquisition get that. And they're hungry. They want to finish. They want to close. They want to win. They want to get them in the door. Well, Friday morning is the day where you make sure that happens. And you separate the wheat from the tares, so to speak. And you reach out to anybody who is, I'm going to say, on the brink or teetering, and you find out, are you in or are you out?
Okay.
Are you with us? And usually I always encourage people that are in this category, people that have this talent, they're good at it, but they're mean. They're angry. They're angry. They're like, why haven't you called me back? They're like my youngest daughter.
Oh.
They're like, why haven't you called me back?
No.
So I said, I'm like, hey, how about a little charm? I will always send out little notes to people, and it'll say like, have you been eaten by alligators? Are you ghosting me? All that kind of fun little stuff, just to lighten it up. But it's still the same. Is that I'm trying to keep, are you in or are you out type thing.
It's interesting, John. What I teach people is I've done some of that before. I've found, quite frankly, that if I've been talking to them and they've disappeared, and I don't mean like a prospect, but somebody I've moved, through a couple of cycles, they disappear, is to call, and you probably did this too, is to say, I hadn't heard back from you. I'm guessing you've made gone a different direction or things have changed. I'm going to go ahead and close your file.
Sure, that's great too.
And so that, to me, it just brings it to real, because in my mind, when I say that I can close the file myself, I quit worrying about it. And either they call me back and say, no, don't close my file, or they don't call back. And either way, I can get to the truth pretty quickly. So and are you dead?
Absolutely.
Are you okay? Whatever is very effective.
So that takes a lot of being willing to get a no. So in other words, you have to be willing to be able to pull the plug on something and get a no. But Friday morning, you're in that mode. That's the mode that you're in, is on Friday morning. And because you've got to be serious about business acquisition, you got to be serious about, what do I have to work with here? And that kind of helps you gauge what you're going to be doing. Now, Friday afternoon, you got to take a breath and look at the metrics of your business. So a lot of salespeople are really good with like working, but they're not good at the metrics.
They suck at the analyzing. Yes.
Yeah, they're not really good at all. And in today's world, metrics are actually important.
Yep.
Whereas, but if you're like a business acquisition, let's say business acquisition and relationships are your gift, then when you look at all metrics, to you, metrics seems like a waste. It seems like the sales prevention department.
Yes.
It seems like me adding to the CRM, or me filling out reports, or me doing an expense report, or me doing a management behavior plan for next week. To you, that doesn't feel right. It feels like a waste of time, and it feels dumb. I'm not an accountant.
Going to the farm. Yes.
Yeah. Or even checking on your commissions and looking about exactly how much money you have coming in, or your expense report. These kinds of things, to most salespeople, are like, that's a waste. And in today's world, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And so you got to be, I only give it a half day. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So, to kind of check in. And with technology these days, using technology, they can help you to be better in this area, to raise your game. You got a lot of assistance. In fact, you have a lot of assistance in all four of the areas with some technology.
Interesting. So, John, you mind if I take a second and share with you a couple of things I've learned today?
Please.
I love how you break down sales into 4 parts. I don't know that I had heard that before. It makes perfect sense now that I see it. With acquisition is 1, number 2 is business operations, number 2 is business relationships, and number 3 is advice or advisor.
Yes.
You're dead on. Those really are. And typically people are, better at 2 of those than 2 others. And it's interesting to pick pick the one you're great at and continue to work on it, and then pick maybe your second one and work on that as well. But to have a process where you go through every week and you're working on it, and you have a plan and a map to do that. I think that's really super.
And not just work on it, but maximize it. In other words, push it. So it's like, okay, I'm really good at acquisitions, and this is what I did last year. I'm gonna push it this year. I am going to push it hard, because you got the gift, so you probably have some room.
Yeah, sure. And you want to get better at it.
Of course.
So, John, how would people get in touch with you? How would they find you or talk to you or reach out?
The best way to get a hold of me is LinkedIn.
Okay.
Getting a hold of me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have a very strong profile and presence there.
And you're John Condry, Condry.
Yes, Condry. And I don't think there's any other Condrys on there that take up my place. You'll see my handsome face on there.
There you go.
I think I'm wearing sunglasses. So
got it. Okay.
So it's from there, but that's the best way to if you want to talk to me about anything to get a hold of me there. So, John, or my email. My email is always a great thing.
What is that?
John@connectionbasics.com. So that's a simple one too.
Yeah, John@connectionbasics.com. John, thank you so much for being on the show. No BS sales team. Hope you guys got a lot out of this. John is a super smart guy. He's been in this business for a very long time. He has a lot to share, a lot of knowledge. If you learned something here, some of you guys have been great about emailing me at walker@walkermckay.com and tell me what you learned. And that you heard something that was good. That means a lot to me, because sometimes I feel like we're speaking into the void. But it's funny, our numbers are growing like crazy. I think January so far, and we still got a day or two left, has been the best month for downloads of the podcast in a little over a year, which is really cool. So thank you for listening. I've got a newsletter I send out once a week. If you want to be a part of that newsletter, you if you text the letters NOBS to the number 66866. So text the letters NOBS, no spaces, to the number 66866. That'll put you on the newsletter, which gives you a link to this podcast, a link to a couple of videos I've done, and some stuff I'm reading. Also a book list that I've been reading and commenting on. So if you want to be a part of that, go there and sign up for the newsletter. John, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your effort and your patience with me in talking through this.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.